and welcome to Doing Time, episode 10, where humans talk about their experiences in a psych ward. Today we have Chicago comedian and friend Jackie Cooper.
And friend.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, we talked about what we were going to discuss today. Usually the first question I ask is how much time have you done?
Right.
And that's like how much time you've been in a psych ward, therapy. So
I'm like a hot 15 minutes.
Yeah. So whatever set you have prepared.
Just start now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you said that you haven't personally been in a psych ward. So why don't you explain everything and whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Also for people who are triggered, which... Okay, just kidding. No, but seriously,
for people who are triggered, get the fuck over it. Just kidding.
But good start. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about graphic information. So
yeah,
but it's just a warning to people because some people get I get it.
Absolutely, I think that's important. We're talking about like sad stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't spent time in a psych ward myself. Mm-hmm. My brother spent a lot of time in a psych ward. He passed away last year.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's so weird because people are like, I'm sorry, and I want to be like, oh, it's okay. And then I'm like, oh, it's not. I can't say that. Like, what a dick to be like.
Not to like, do you just say thank you?
I know. I go, it's okay, and then I laugh and I go, I mean, it's not, but I'm fine. I'm really awkward about it. I mean, it only happened 2 years ago, so I'm still like, and I didn't tell people for a really long time. Like, I kept it kind of like I just moved here.
So it was 2 years ago? Or?
It was 2 years ago.
Okay, but you mean a year since you moved here?
Oh my God, did I say he died a year ago? See, it feels like a year. No, it happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago this past October, which was, we're in October.
Yeah.
So,
heavy, yeah.
Yeah, but, so he died from a heroin overdose. Mm-hmm. So, and like, I think for me, they're like, and for my parents probably, we don't talk about it a lot, but there's like big questions of like, what, like, was it suicide or accidental? What do like opioids have to do with it? Like fentanyl, which is like, it's so many complicated things.
I know what fentanyl is.
Yeah, like it's bad news bears. It kills people. I would know.
It's like, right. It's, and that's why I kind of brought you on too, is like, I just want to talk about, because I don't really talk about, I mean, I talk about how I can relate in myself, but I've never like fully gone through my story and kind of just like where I started and where I ended. I go through like bits and pieces because I can, feed off of other people's stuff.
Right.
But that's why I brought you on, because like, I just wanted
because you want to talk about yourself.
I mean, yeah, why else? Okay, right. Anyway, so, but my brother struggles with addiction and is currently using heroin. So, and I don't know that for a fact, but I have a feeling because I haven't talked to him in like over a year, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the weird part, and I think it's like a weird part about being a sibling versus a parent. My brother ended up being very close with my parents, which was also difficult, but like there was never really a huge like falling out or anything. So he was close with them, and lived with them at the end, but I I don't remember our last conversation. Like, I don't, I have very few memories of him growing up just because since I was like 10, he was in and out of mental hospitals and rehabs and psych wards and all of that. Like, how much time have I done in a psych ward? Like, I've spent Christmases in psych wards, like celebrating the best place to celebrate a holiday.
And not to... It's sad, but not to like make it worse. But I just want to ask you a question, because this is how I feel with my brother. Because I've taken time off of school to go visit him at boarding school. Mm-hmm. I got a call 2 weeks ago from a debt collector because my brother goes to hospitals, goes to detox, goes out, and they're like, "You owe us money," and he's like on the streets doing whatever.
Right.
So my question is like, when you went to Christmas, like, did you feel like it was all about him and like your Christmas was ruined, or like how did you feel about that? Because that's how I always was, like, selfless, and then at a certain point I was like, wait, this isn't right.
It's so weird. I'm like still struggling to figure this out. I need to go back to therapy. But like,
can I be your?
Yeah, like
this
Drew,
is your couch.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, like I think I'm very lucky in that my parents made sure that I was always like we were both equal priorities, just in different ways. Wow. And so my parents, like, huge shout out to them. I never felt like everything's about my brother. Like, literally, I always felt incredibly important and taken care of. But I also had a very strange and unique experience in that I went to boarding school when I turned 14. Not when I turned 14, but for freshman through senior year of high school, I was at boarding school. Okay. So my parents and my brother lived in LA. Mm-hmm. I went to boarding school in Massachusetts. Oh, wow. So I was like 3,000 miles away. Yeah. Wow. And it was like a prep school. Like, it wasn't like the boarding schools. My brother was going to boarding schools for, like, being a bad kid, and I was going to boarding schools.
Where did he go?
He went all over Utah. Just like all over Utah.
My brother went to like North Carolina, and then I forget another place.
Yeah.
Everywhere, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, so like I just remember like Christmas Day used to be like get on the plane to Utah or like whatever. Like that was just
your normal.
Yeah, and so I like, but they made sure that I was very taken care of. I think I don't know. I think like it's weird now that he has passed away. Mm-hmm. It has forced me to be more honest with myself about my own mental health issues.
Right.
And that has been, I think, like, one of the harder personal things about, like, him not being the constant person that we're all watching out for. Like, whenever I got a phone call from my mom when my brother was alive, especially when things were really bad, my first thought was, what happened with Donchin? His name was Donchin. What happened with Donchin? Or is Donchin alive? Is Donchin dead? Like, what happened? So, it's so bad, dude. It's so bad.
When my mom doesn't answer the phone.
Don't even get me started. When my parents don't answer the phone, especially now that my brother has died.
Yeah, what do you think?
Oh, when my parents don't answer the phone, they're both dead in my head. They're both. I once had I remember I was walking in Wrigleyville. I was walking.
Not just the mom,
no, they're dead. They died.
Yeah.
I will come up with like the most insane stories. I mean, this is anxiety, right?
And especially, for sure.
And it's like PTSD anxiety. From having, like, I'm sure from having to find out things about your brother and like getting phone calls and stuff. Like, you do get like certain sorts of PTSD from it, even if it's not like. I don't know. I mean, I did experience it myself. I was going to say, like, even though it's not my own experience, but my own experience is, like my 16th birthday, my mom came to my boarding school to visit me. Was, like, rushing me out the door. We were going to go to New York together. And I was like, why are you rushing me? Like, all my friends want to say bye to me. It's my birthday.
Right.
And she was like, I'm sorry. I have to tell you this in the car. Your brother overdosed last night. He's in the hospital. The reason we had to get out of your dorm is because I have a phone call with his doctors in 15 minutes. And I just remember being like...
Dude, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're like, so it's not my birthday anymore?
Right, it's not my birthday anymore. Except, we're still going to New York for me, you know? Like, we're still...
But you're still... It's the experience is different.
Right.
Because it's hindered a little bit, even though it's not completely... It's your mom might act a little different because she's, like, dealing with that.
There's a huge cloud over it.
That's what I'm saying.
And, like, I even remember... Oh, God... I was such a nosy kid too. Like I'm a busybody. Mm-hmm. And so I talked to my brother on the phone that night and he was like, "Oh, it's your birthday." And I was like, "Yeah, it's my birthday." And he was like, I was like, "How you doing?" He was like, oh my God, this is also complicated. Like it makes no sense. But my mom and her brother had a falling out a long time ago. Okay. And my brother my brother's was schizoaffective, which means both schizophrenic and like it means you have the brain issues of schizophrenia, but it appears as depression. It's it's like, a lot. I don't even fucking
me and Meg talked about it last episode, so like
it's weird.
Go listen to the episode if you really want to know.
Go listen to the last episode if you know what schizoaffective disorder is. Also, ask my therapist because she's the one who explained it to me.
Yeah.
He like told me, he was like, talk to Joey, my mom's brother. Like he'll know why I overdosed, and I was like. What? Like,
was he paranoid or something?
Yeah, super paranoid. But I freaked out. And I was like, okay. I was just like, it has to do with Joey. And I spent my birthday night, like, finding Joey's phone number online.
Like ruminating.
And I called him from a hotel room, being like, I need to talk to you about my brother. He and my mom hadn't talked in years. Like, I was being crazy. I was being weird.
He, like, made you what he was.
Right. I mean, right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
he put
you
paranoia.
In that state. My brother's done that to me so many times that I'm like, am I also Do I also have Asperger's?
Yeah.
Like, what is going... Because he, like, does things, too, where he's, like, so socially off, or, like, he'll say things that are, like, irrational. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And that's happened to me, too, where, like, my brother, on my birthday, he
Love it.
got clean. So that was, like, happy birthday, Drew! And I was like, it's not about you, but cool, you're off heroin.
Like,
you know, like...
Love that.
Exactly.
Thanks, bro.
And then the next... He got a year clean, and the next... My birthday, he relapsed. So, like, I cried on my birthday. I was like, fuck you for ruining my birthday. Like, you relapsed.
I cry every birthday, so I get it.
Yeah.
No, just
he, like, he relapsed and then was in the hospital on my birthday. I don't know if my mom had to go take care of it, but it was something about him. And I was like, there's not one day that it's, like, all about me. It's, like, one day, dude.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I, like, especially because I've been in the performing arts since I was very little, like, I've always, like... This is going to sound so annoying, but, like, I've always had the opportunity for it to be about me. Like, my parents will come to my plays, like, my brother will come. Like, everyone does have to pay attention. Maybe that's why I'm, like, always... Like, now I do stand-up because everyone has to look at me.
Because it's like, see me!
Yeah, look
I'm
at
here
me.
Too.
I'm important, and I can make jokes about it because I'm funny and I'm smart, even though I'm sad.
Exactly. That's my whole life.
That's literally every... That's why you can do an entire podcast about
mental health. Because it's, like, it's so interesting, too. It's, like, to just go back to what you're saying about, like, feeling that you're almost manipulated by their psychosis a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's... And it's not even negative. I'm just saying that's what happens. I remember... I might have mentioned this story before, but... My brother was like, I looked up how to kill myself. I looked up, like, the way to angle a gun in my mouth, how to kill myself, but they wouldn't give me a gun because I have past history with mental illness or being... He's said that he has mental illness in hospitals to go on the psych ward to get the drugs, to then leave, use the drugs, and then relapse on heroin. So it's, like, this whole thing where, like, he doesn't even have really mental health issues. I mean, he might, but, like, his main issue is really addiction.
Right.
So... and he called me from diving practice and was like, you need to call Dad and tell him to help me and give me money because it was something like that along those lines. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, Dad won't answer me and I'm going to kill myself. If Dad doesn't, and it's really, I need money from Dad. If he doesn't answer me, I'm going to kill myself. And that's a threat. So I was manipulated by that crazy when I really just should have hung up on him.
But...
And people don't understand that if my brother, yes, God forbid, like, knock on wood, if he did, God forbid, pass away, that's not on me.
Yeah. I mean,
he was the one using the drugs and manipulating me. Like, people don't understand that it's like, when people are like, oh, it's the parents' fault for the kids using the hair. No, did the parents shove a needle into their... No. It's not their fault.
Yeah. No, of course not. And it's also not the person's fault. But I think an important thing that people talk about in recovery is that, like, you have to want to get better. Like, you have to, like, it's not 100%. Enough to be in the program. It's not enough to do time or whatever. Like, if you're not trying, if you're not putting in the effort, it's not going to happen. So, like, we can all be behind, or we could all be behind my brother and, you know, rallying for him. And we were, like, he lived with my parents when he died. Like, yeah, it was awful. But, like, he, like, you know, my parents did everything for him, and that he was their whole life, and yet somehow, like, I was too. I think that's what being a parent is. I've never understood it. Not going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it's like, it's not his fault, other than the fact that he did not have the ability to get better. Like, he just didn't have it in him. I mean, and that's where, like, you know, you can ask yourself, like, was it a suicide or was it an overdose? And in the end, like,
doesn't matter.
This is going to sound bad, but, like, dead is dead. Like, like, knowing that isn't going to change it. But don't you think
that addiction is suicide, though?
Yeah.
Because when you're...
I mean, yeah, in a lot of ways.
When you're... Well, because I talked to my family friend, Alan, who I eventually have him on the podcast, but he told me, he goes, you know, he was using heroin for over 10 years, and he was in a gang and everything. Yeah. And he was like, when you found out that the weed on the corner of Ashland and Western almost killed you, he goes, or killed somebody, like literally killed somebody from that dealer, that's where you go, because that's how good the heroin is. So it's like, if you want to be that close to death,
yeah,
that's suicide. It's like, I want to be this close. You know, when you're drinking and you want to be, it's like you want to get more and more. That's like how much people who are addicts, they need more and more and more and more, and it's like death, unfortunately, sometimes is a result of that. And it's like, you know, and I've watched and heard, and I've met people in his house that I've literally met face to face, and 2 weeks later, he died.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, you know, when you are in a community of people who are highly addicted, especially to things like heroin and alcohol, the number of people you know who die just goes up and up and up. And like, I don't know, my parents would hate it if I said this. I think most people would hate it if I said this, but like my brother was always like a ticking time bomb. And I mean that is so deeply depressing, and I'm not.
No, Jackie, it's not.
Like
it's not that it's not depressing, but it's like it's not so outlandish for you to say that.
I'm not trying to minimize it or make it be like it was inevitable, but in so many ways we don't have the ability to like treat schizoaffective disorder properly yet. Mm-hmm. We don't have the ability to even diagnose it or addiction.
Do you think he coped with his schizoaffective? He masked it with
that's the first sign of schizoaffective disorder. I all the doctors who listen to this are going to be like, that's not true. Right. But I think it is true that one of the first signs of schizoaffective disorder is self-medicating with like intense drugs. Like my brother
Narcotics.
my brother started smoking weed when, I mean now this is normal, but like probably when he was like 10 or 12.
Me too.
Once again, like
12, 13.
Right. Normal now, but at the time, like that
he was like chastised in our community.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Who do you even get that at the age of 12?
Right. Exactly.
No, here's the thing is like, and I never want to minimize your experience, but like
minimize it,
our experiences are probably 96% similar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's just, and I think
this is another thing that's like, it's not outlandish to say this, all addicts are the same. They're all the same.
I think they're all battling similar demons. Mm-hmm. And I think,
but it's the traits of like manipulation. It's all about me. Like,
well, right. That's what addiction does to you, right? Because if you need something all of the time, that's like, I don't know. Yeah. I've never dealt with addiction in that way, but I can see. Yeah. I can see the like the
patterns
and the I can't even remember the word for it, but like it's like a tunnel vision.
Right.
The tunnel vision of addiction, where it's like it's the only thing you can think about, it's the only thing you can see. How are you going to get your next high? And especially when like you're so low. Like I don't even drink that much anymore. Not that I ever did, but like being hungover makes me so depressed that like I can't do it. I can't. Like it is not fun for me the day that I am drunk, or the night that I'm drunk, because the next day is like, not only am I sick, like I'm regretting every decision I've ever made in my entire life for a
no,
whole
I get
day.
that. No, I haven't.
Sorry, I have a
drank.
cold. I keep doing
No,
that.
You're good. I drink, but not a lot. And when I say I drink, it's like a couple glasses of wine, and I'm pretty good because I'm an antidepressant, so everything kind of is ramped up a little bit more. But
same.
Since I told myself, I was like, since college I haven't gotten that drunk. Like 2 years ago when I was in Denver, I haven't gotten that drunk since I was there 2 years ago. Last weekend I got like blacked out. And I never blacked out, but I got like brown out, blackout pretty much. Because I was talking to somebody and they're like, you already told me that. And I was like, what? And the next day, suicide was like on my mind,
It's
baby.
really bad. It is
so bad.
It is really bad. I've gotten to the point where when I am hungover, like if I can't be in my bed sad with a bottle of Gatorade all day, then I am like...
Your Instagram stories are priceless.
Yeah. My hangovers are me and a bottle.
Once I see, like, I know you're hungover, there's like 8 like photos, and it's just like you and Pedialyte, and like, we know what happened.
Yeah. It's me with my sunglasses in bed.
Yeah.
Like, fully nude, fully nude, only sunglasses, and like a bag of bread next to me. Just like really going for it.
Yeah, and I think to what you're saying about that is that basically the next day, if you feel like that, just imagine what people, is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly. Like when I like have 4 glasses of wine the next day, I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself. like I can't imagine like having one one of, like, I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Like, one of the greatest highs in the world is a heroin high. Mm-hmm. And then how low you get the next day couldn't be me. Could not do it.
No.
I mean, I guess it could. Because I'm cooler.
Yeah, Pedialyte doesn't fix that.
Yeah, Pedialyte. Shockingly, Pedialyte does not fix a heroin.
You can't go to Walgreens for a heroin hangover. Which
I
don't even know what that is. It's just called jonesing.
It's called.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know what that is. We are back from break. Hello.
Hi.
You farted a little.
I did fart.
Yeah. It sounded.
But I announced
it. Sounded like you were sitting on a chair though. Have you ever seen
like when you're like, oh no, I didn't fart.
But it sounded like it melted into the chair.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it was gonna be a sound one too.
I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, yeah.
Because
there's a Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky like have a fart mic on their podcast and they fart in directly.
I would love to go on. Hi, Tom Segura. You've heard of me.
Just start a petition. Okay, so I put an Instagram poll. You know this. I put an Instagram poll on my Instagram story, which everybody should participate in because, like,
Instagram.
Yeah. And I asked the question, which there was no right answer. It looks like there was wrong answers, but it's just because that's like the way it's formatted. And I asked.
Your hair looks really good.
Thank you.
You're
so
welcome.
does yours. Okay. If you've ever felt depressed or suicidal, what helps you get out of it? There's no right answer. So the options were hanging and talking with friends and fam, working out or doing an activity, going to therapy, and then giving myself time to wait it out. And what won was hanging and talking with friends and fam, which I had an idea would. Second was working out, doing an activity. And then the least popular was going to therapy. And then giving myself time to wait it out was just like a little bit more, a little bit less. But what I found interesting was when the first few people came in and answered, like all the women were like talking to my friends, and then two of the men that voted it was like waiting it out.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and then in which I was like, oh, there's gonna be a pattern. But then as more men answered, it was like working out, talking to friends and family. So there really was no gender difference.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that the men that did answer, it was either working out or really giving myself time to wait it out.
They don't talk to their friends.
Or or go to therapy. Which is like...
Men don't go to therapy.
Which is like, yeah, well, not to say
some
they don't.
Some men do.
Right, but it's like every waiting room I've been in is like all
it's
women.
Women, yeah.
Yeah.
Because women are smarter.
It's not that women, like, I was talking to somebody recently who was like, have you really ever met a woman without like anxiety or like any of these mental illnesses? And I was like, yes, but how many men aren't saying that they have?
Right. I mean... the first step is admitting it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with addiction.
Exactly.
But, like, it's true. Once my brother died, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but, like, once my brother died, I had to, like, come to terms with the fact that I, like, had a lot of my own mental illnesses that were just, like, not overshadowed.
Yeah,
I don't like that word.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that a little bit more because, like, once I kind of went to college and was away from my brother, it almost felt like a reawakening because I was like, oh, but it's not about him. I have to, like, look inward, and I went insane.
I mean, I was so depressed in high school, and I was away from my brother because I was at boarding school. Okay. And I didn't see it as depressed until so much later, like, maybe until, like, the last year or so. Okay. But especially, like, once he passed away, like, I, was coping in a lot of interesting ways. Like, I took up cigarettes and, like, don't smoke them anymore. Mm-hmm. Sometimes. But not as often.
Mom and Dad, I don't.
Mom and Dad, I don't. And I remember one night I drunkenly told my dad I smoked cigarettes, and I was like, you can't tell Mom.
You're like, how old am I?
Yeah. Also, my dad's the one who, like, taught me how to do coke. He didn't teach me how to do coke, but he is the one who I was, like, talking to him about doing coke, and he was like... I was like, it made me shit the next morning. He was like, that's because you got bad coke. And I was like, you are cooler than me.
Yeah.
Like, so much cooler than me.
Yeah, you're like, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
You gave birth to me, basically.
So, like, get over it.
Right. Yeah. He said that. He's like, well, it wasn't good coke. And it's like, okay, Brad.
Well, he was like, it was cut with baby laxatives. That's why you shat the next morning. And I was like, Dad, how come you're smarter than me about drugs?
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, good for you.
Good for you, Dad. I'm like, I just felt like such a disappointment at that point. Because I don't know how to do drugs right, Yeah. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah, he's like, if you need a guy,
I got one for you. Yeah. Why did I talk about
You were saying that you were coping in different ways.
Coping in lots of interesting ways. I remember, like, one day I was trying to be really dramatic. I also was going through a breakup at around the same time, off and on breaking up with the same person for, like, a year, which is cool.
How old are you, by the way?
24.
Okay.
You're 22, right?
Next month, 23, so yeah.
Okay, get over it. You're like a baby.
We're like the same age. What do you, exactly.
But I remember, like, it was, like, I think, like, 3 weeks after my brother died, and I was going through, like, this sort of breakup, and I remember, like, walking around Wrigleyville and, like, having just had a glass of red wine at, like, 11 a.m. and smoking a cigarette, and it was cold out, and I was, like, brooding, like, ugh, I'm so dramatic. But, like, but once I got...
Doesn't that feel good sometimes?
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, it's the best.
Last night I smoked a cigarette because I was sad, and I was like, yes, this is correct.
But it's like, it almost, when you're in that state, it's like, I'm better than the world and the world doesn't get me, and this is how everyone should feel.
Right.
Because the world is ending and it's sad, and I feel this way, you guys don't, because you guys don't get it.
Yeah. Like, I'm so much more enlightened than all of you guys.
Right, it's like, why aren't you guys all drinking at 11 a.m.?
Right.
Like, this is what we're...
Right. The world is over anyways, we might as well.
It's ending now.
I think that is the brain of an addict who's like, well, everything's bad, so I'll drink at 11 a.m.
Right,
anyway.
but it's also depression as well.
Well, yeah, and
where
so
you internalize the loneliness into no one feels this way, so
right.
It's almost like a cocky lonely, where it's like...
It is.
Where it's like, the world doesn't feel
this
way.
No one has ever felt as bad as me.
Right. And you're also superior.
Right.
And then anytime somebody says, you're like, you're not depressed, trust me. Like, I know what depression is.
It's so funny because I would never say that out loud, but I do find myself thinking it even about myself. Like, I'll be like, well, I'm not really depressed. Like,
oh, yeah, well,
like,
it flips too.
I don't know what, like, I'm just sad. I'm not really depressed. Like, that's not, like, especially because I had a brother who was so depressed. Yeah. It was like, my depression is just sadness. And then once he died and once I was like, okay, I'm dealing with, like, sort of going through a breakup, and I'm dealing with, like, my brother is dead, and, like, I'm not in school for the first time in my life. Like, my brother died 2 months after I moved to Chicago. Oh my God. So it was like, I was alone. The only person that I was really close to ended things with me. And, like, it was just, like, I was like, this is bad. And then I had to be like, okay, I'm sad about those things. How am I coping? And when I'm not, like, being overly dramatic and coping, like drinking wine and smoking cigarettes, how am I actually coping? And I realized, like, I was not. And that's when I started, like, going to therapy. And then I went to the doctor. I was, like, seeing my gynecologist, and I was like, I think I have, like, really, really, really bad PMS, and it makes me super, super depressed. And she was like, okay, there's a term for that. It's called PMDD, which is what I have. Thank you so much.
I know that.
Yeah, it's like when you're mental. It's when you have
slide that in.
No,
you're like.
It's so dumb because it sounds like such an obnoxious thing to say. It's when your PMS is like worse than other people's. I'm like, right. I have the worst PMS. Like,
yeah. How about you?
Yeah, like fuck you. You don't. What, you get cramps, baby? Yeah. No. But it's like when
I really bleed.
Yeah. It's like when your mental health, like, symptoms are like. It's like the difference between being, like, a little bit sad during your period and, like, being suicidal. And, like, so that was starting to happen. And so I talked to my doctor, and this was, like, a year later. So a year after my brother died, and, like, still going through the breakup stuff somehow. And I was like, I'm depressed. Or I didn't even say I'm depressed. I was like, I have really bad PMDD. I'm sure that's what it is.
Right.
And she was like, you probably do. Yeah. But also, is there any time of the month where you don't feel depressed and anxious? And I was like, no. And she was like, have you ever been medicated for depression and anxiety? And I just started bawling. Oh, shit. I just, like, I didn't even know it was going to happen. I just, like, broke down in sobs. It's the first time that I've ever, like, heard something and sobbed immediately. Like, I was just like, ugh.
Because you were almost probably just waiting for somebody to ask.
Yeah, but, like, I didn't know that I was. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, but
my body knew. Like, my...
That's what I'm saying. You probably had an inkling.
Yeah,
and that's, like, sometimes, too, when people, like, when somebody says, well, like, you know, at school or whatever, and so they'd be like, are you okay? And I would just immediately... But before that, I was completely...
Right. No,
it's stressed, but it's like... But then when somebody's like, do you think... They're like... how's your medicine? And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
I have the best roommate on the planet. Shout out Kathleen. But I have the best roommate on the planet. But when she asks me if I'm okay, ooh, it's bad. Like, sometimes I just won't even look at her when I'm upset because I know she'll be like, are you okay? And then I'll just be like, I'll either be mean to her because I don't want her to ask me questions, or I'll just break down sobbing.
Yeah. Well, it's that trigger that can, like, flip a switch super quickly. And, yeah, it's interesting what triggers me is different at any moment. So I'm sure for you, it could be your brother, or it could be job, or it could be, you know, your breakup. It could be definitely, like, anything. It depends on what you're sad about.
Yeah.
But there's people, too. Like, I mean, the person who produced my podcast is Ashley, who's worked here too. Like, she's that one person that if she says something, I'm just like, I'm not okay.
It's funny you got quieter because, like, what if she hears you being
talking
vulnerable?
good about her and saying she's an amazing, wonderful person? No, I think it's like there's certain people that, you know, like, have a certain connection with you, or there's certain people where I'm like, oh no, I'm fine.
Oh,
but then there's certain people I'm like, no, they get me, and, like, if I say I'm okay, they know I'm lying. Oh. So then I can't.
So I either have to
around, right?
Yeah, I have to distance myself from them, unhealthy.
I can't do that though. I
really don't do that. I don't.
But you're saying, like, just lie and be like, it's fine.
Right, right. Like, I mean, I'm usually pretty honest when I'm upset. Like, especially if someone points it out to me and they're like, "You're being a bitch today," are you upset?
Right.
Or something like that. I mean, people aren't that mean to me, but that's how it, like, feels in your head, right?
For sure. So then you eventually did start going to therapy, and
I started going to therapy, and then I got on antidepressants, and boy, those first few weeks on antidepressants, for me, the best weeks of my life. It was amazing. Because your hormones or not your hormones, your serotonin levels are, like, they're leveling out. So mine got real high. I'm on Lexapro.
Okay.
Except I think I have to go. I literally wrote a note in my phone last night because I'm PMDDing right now. And thank you. I'm
so cute, by the way.
I'm so
PMDDing.
I'm so brave.
Yeah.
And last night I forget to eat when everyone forgets to eat when they're depressed, but I was like I was sitting working on some jokes, and I'm like sitting on my couch, like, writing, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm hungry, I need to make food, I'm hungry, I need to make food, I'm hungry, I need to make food, and then it's like 9:00 and I haven't eaten since 10, and I'm like, oh no.
And it gets to a point too where you're so hungry that you look at food and you're like,
oh my God, everything looked disgusting last night.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I was like, I want salt, but Cheetos, ugh,
that's disgusting. Yeah, no, all food sounded bad. But that's just, all that is just to say, I literally wrote a note last night being like, I have to go back to my doctor to figure out what medication I need to get on, because
that's important.
I feel like I'm, like, bottoming out again or something. And
for sure.
It's been almost a year of being on antidepressants, and, like, they're great, but also...
You got a long road ahead of you.
Yeah.
I love you, girl, but it's like, it sucks, and that's part of, like, and not to, like, burst your bubble, but it's like, it's just, I was in Lexapro probably when I was, like, 14, 15.
Yeah.
I've gone through, so for 10 years I've been on some sort of ADHD stimulator or antidepressant, and I finally found my like concoction 2 years ago. So 8 years I didn't know what I was on.
It's like...
Or what I should be on.
Right. And it, like, Lexapro was great for a little while, and I'm like, and it might still be great. Just kidding. I'm pretty depressed. It's like, I need to go back to the doctor.
Yeah, this is not the sponsor for Lexapro. If anyone was wondering out there who's listening.
But Lexapro, if you want to sponsor me, I'm going to be off of health insurance in a year and a half. And your shit's expensive. So
lower the prices, baby. Yeah. No, and so it sounds like, so what would you answer for the question? Like, that, what helps you when you're depressed? Like, is it going to therapy? Is it working out? What would your answer be?
That's
if
really
you had to
hard.
Pick one, like, I know it's like I do all of them, but it's like, what would your one thing?
I think if I'm being honest with myself and want to get the most better in a quick amount of time, it is talking to my friends.
Me too.
And it, especially, like, it is me being in my bed, calling my mom and calling my best friend Steph, and, like, Kathleen coming into my room and being like, can I get you something? Actually, when people are too nice to me when I'm depressed, it also really bums me out. I'm like, shut the fuck up. I don't need you to be nice to me.
Because you don't want to feel talked down to or
or like pitied.
Or a burden. That's what
I don't want to feel pitied or like I'm a burden or
For
like...
sure.
Like
That's the whole thing.
Or that I think I'm important. Like, God forbid.
That you take time out of your day to come to me to help me with my problems. It's just like me. Yeah.
And then, but when you're depressed, it is me, because you're just literally trying to survive.
But that's okay. People need to know, like, that you're just as important. It's like that, like your roommate, I'm sure you would do the same for her.
Oh, absolutely. And we have done the same for each other.
Right.
But, okay, so now I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you balance the me, I need to take time for myself if I'm depressed with I should mic every night, I have 20 shows in 30 days. Like, this month I have 20 shows in 30 days. Plus I need to mic. When the fuck am I going to do that? Plus I have a job. Plus I need a social life. Like, what am I going to do?
I don't.
I don't mic.
Answer my question. I mic like every night because I don't have that many shows this month, but my thing is, like, I really don't take care of myself the best that I should, and I put it off because I'm like, oh, I'll just figure it out when I'm at work and I have downtime. I'll figure out how to take care of myself. So I set a reminder on my phone that says work out. I don't. I disregard it. Like, I literally disregard it, and then I look. I'll be like, if I get to, I'll speed walk. This is trying to fit everything in. I'm not kidding you. Today before I came here, I was halfway to the bus stop. It said 6 minutes. And then I didn't have my Venture card. Ran back in my house, got my Venture card, sprinted to the bus stop, made it to the bus. And I was like, oh, this is my workout. Like, I because I'm like, I don't have time. Like, I went to work, went home to have a snack, came here doing the podcast, and then I'm going to a mic, and then I'm going home. I have to make a lunch for tomorrow. I haven't eaten dinner yet.
Oh, yeah, no. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Why would I eat dinner? And then, especially because I'm a woman. I have body image issues. I think we can all relate to that. I'm like, and then it becomes a food eating thing. It's like,
we can talk about this we can,
I don't have time to eat food. I'm making, and then I'm better than everyone else because I don't eat.
It's such a power thing when you don't eat. Like, nobody's ever been like said I don't eat to not be like a little bit proud of how they feel about.
This is a big thing that
I don't. I didn't eat dinner, and they're like, oh my God, they work so hard.
Right. I didn't
sleep.
have time. Oh. Yeah. Well, in high school and in college, a big thing in my groups of friends, which were primarily women, like, I pointed this out to some friends recently, and they were like, holy shit, that's true. The like, first half of all of our conversations would be what I ate that day, or what they ate that day. Like,
really?
Yeah, and, like, so many of our conversations were just like, oh my God, I've barely eaten today. Oh yeah, like, what'd you eat? Oh, like, I had, like, a spoonful of almond butter, and, like, I had some, like, peanuts later. It's like,
you're being proudful about something that's actually just straight up unhealthy.
Right. I mean, it's disordered eating at its finest, and especially because, like, I was in an acting program, and I don't think anyone in the program, I don't think anyone will listen to this from the program, not in general.
And even if they do, like, I talk about people on my diving team and stuff, and I never bash them. I'm just like, this is what my experience was.
Yeah, and, like, the truth of it is, like, there was such a contest of, like, who eats the least.
Yeah, it's so unhealthy.
And we all ate in front of each other because we would all eat in the dining hall, and we were a really small program, so we'd all go to eat together, and then we would all go to class, whatever. We all lived together, so we know who's eating what for dinner. And, like, it was the thinnest I've ever been, but it was not healthy.
Right.
And, like,
for sure,
you know, stress, puking, and all this stuff, and it's just
my God. Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, and that's... My thing right now is taking little steps to get better. So this is what I do. So since I have all this shit going on, I'm also switching jobs, and I started a new job on Monday, which I'm super excited about. But I also how I find ways to take care of myself. I'm doing 2 small things that I am more conscious about in my life right now. Is a lot of times I get so caught up in my OCD routines. Like, if I lose something, where is it? Like, I have to constantly know where all my belongings are. If I get home, I have to put my Venture card right away in my wallet. Otherwise, I'll lose it. I'll never see it again, which I know my OCD is going to remind me. I have to put my keys right back in my backpack.
But yeah, so it's not rational.
So what I do right now is, like, I actually do exposure therapy to myself, where I, like, leave my keys on the table for a second. I'm like, breathe, Drew. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
They don't need to be in your backpack. You're not going to forget them. And if you do, you can have your roommate open up the door for you and ask her when she's going to be home. Like, this stuff that's, like, the world, it's fine.
Yeah, those things where you're like, the world is ending.
So that's one thing I do. The second thing I do is my thing is I've always been a leader, but I've never been able to come out of my shell in the sense of like let loose. I've never been able to dance without be like, oh, are they thinking of weird things about my moves, or like am I being weird, or like am I accommodating to this person, and I think that's also part of an issue of having a sibling with issues, is that you're trying to always accommodate to everybody else around you, because
that's so interesting. Whoa.
Yeah. So that's obviously you felt that, and it's just like I feel like I'm always kind of catering, and it's like even if I'm like my stature, I'm like, oh, does this person not like that I'm talking to this person? So maybe I'll make a facial expression to indicate to this person that I don't like talking to this person, but I'm doing it out of courtesy. So it's like I'm constantly. So what I've been doing recently to like channel that is just I've always thought it was weird. So I also do this where I journal, but I don't. But I never journaled because I was scared that somebody else was going to read it. So I'd write it in a sense of like, oh, if somebody else picked this up, they wouldn't think these thoughts are weird. So now I'm trying to expose myself to be like my fullest self of being weird. And so I'll never talk to myself ever. Right. And now my thing is I expose myself by talking to myself and telling myself it's going to be okay, and it helps me a lot. So those are the two things.
That's interesting.
Those are the two things I do to get through like being busy, having to mic, doing all this stuff. So
yeah, that would be helpful.
That's what I'm saying. So
I'm also going to try trying to carry snacks with you. My mom is a big proponent of like just keeping some like 100%. Almonds on you or like something. But it also part of it is like I'm not going to eat because I'm better than eating. It's like, oh my god, it's so fucked.
No, I know. I had to eat. So yeah. So can we talk for like 5 more minutes? Is that okay? Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I was gonna ask about the joking about suicide. I just wanted to wrap up on that because I know like that was probably what we were gonna talk about in the beginning. But like obviously we just get caught up in other things, and that's what I love about it. Is like I never really know like what the conversations are gonna be about, and that's why I just like to like dive right in. But so what I noticed about you is like I didn't really know you, but I saw you on stage, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, I like her because she talks about suicide. Like, you joked about suicide, and I was like, you joked about your brother dying, and I was like, my first joke was about my brother using heroin, that I, like, pretty much did. And then I have jokes about suicide, too, like, you know that. And so I think, and so I just want to, so I just want to tell you something real, and what your thoughts are on this. I did this joke at Comedy Bar, and you know how hard the downstairs stage is. It's... That's the only stage that's made me cry over comedy. I've only cried about comedy from that stage.
I've cried from Comedy Bar twice, upstairs and downstairs.
Okay. So what happened to me was I do this joke, and I'm sure you've heard it before, but I do this joke where I'm like, there was a suicide recently, somebody jumped off a building, and I was like thinking about like, I think that'd be the last way that I would like want to commit suicide, because like I used to be a gymnast, so like if I jumped off a building, I'd stick the landing, right?
That is, I've heard you workshop that joke.
Thank you.
That is such a good joke.
Thank you. So like that's my joke, right?
Right.
And I did that at Comedy Bar. And then the previous joke, the after joke I did was about how I attempted suicide, and then the lady there, and I go into like I attempted suicide because I was so competitive, and I was always focused on getting first place. And the lady in the hospital took like less Xanax than me, and I was like, how did she take me out of first place? Right? So it was like that joke, and I can tell, like, I was so proud of myself because I got it crushed, dude. Like,
really?
I got an applause break, like, on the fucking worst stage.
Oh, I'm shocked. Sorry,
so that happened, right? Yeah. And it felt so good. I walked to go upstairs, and I'm like, I'm so fucking happy. And I walked to go upstairs, and there's this lady, her face is, like, red. And she was like, don't even say my name. She's like, don't you ever fucking joke about suicide. My nephew killed himself. And I was like, I understand why, you're a fucking cunt. Like, shut the fuck. Like, it was just like, that's why I had this podcast to like joke about this shit. Like, right. It's like,
obviously you do not think that he killed himself because his aunt is a
like,
cunt.
It's just so unnerving that it's like, not only did I make a joke about suicide, but then also back it up with the fact that like, I've literally attempted suicide, so I can fucking say whatever I'm here because it didn't work. So like,
you failed.
Exactly. Okay, bye. We're done. Yeah, but it's just like, don't. But it's just like that kind of stuff where like, I was just literally like, fuck you. Yeah. But it's like, you're mad because I got an applause break problem. Like, if it bombed, she probably would have been so happy. And she's like, don't you dare joke about it. But because it worked, she got up and laughed. And I just want to know your thoughts on that, and like how you would, like, if you've had a similar experience. Yeah. How you feel about that?
It's interesting. Doing suicide material has been a real like up and down thing for me, because the first the first time I ever got on a stage was at the Shuba's open mic a month after my brother died, a month and 3 days. And I remember I was walking around Chicago, and I was like, I got to do it tonight. I got to do it tonight. This is the night I'm going to start stand-up. And, like, I wrote literally 5 minutes of material that day just walking around Chicago. And I wrote it all about my brother's suicide. Like, the entire set was about his suicide and the experience that I went through. Killed, by the way. Thank you so much.
Hell yeah, dude.
And also, if it hadn't killed that night, I probably would not keep doing comedy. So, like,
wow.
Because it was never my plan to do stand-up, so I, like...
I'm so happy.
And, but if it hadn't gone well that night, I probably would have been like, I was right, I'm not good at this. And because it went well that night...
And you wrote about something so vulnerable.
Right. And, like, I've always joked about my brother because that's a coping mechanism and, like, my best coping mechanism. But, so I did that material about my brother, I guess 4 minutes. Then I took, shout out Alex Cuman's FemCom class, and she was like, I was writing about my brother, and I was like, I don't want to write about that anymore. And she was like, if it's what's on your mind, you have to write about it. And, like, especially because I was so new to comedy at the time. This is a year ago. But, like, I was so new to comedy a year ago that, like, I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Like, whatever. And so I wrote 5 minutes on my brother. Once again, we do our graduation showcase. It kills. And I'm like, I'm going to be a revolutionary comic. I'm going to talk about suicide. I'm going to be so strong and so cool. And then I did my first booked show was like a month later, and it was at a queer comedy night, and it was during Pride. And obviously, it should have been obvious to me, talking about suicide in a queer space, not helpful for anyone. Like, the rates for suicide in queer communities is so high, and I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, but...
And it's also, it was my truth, and it was also the only fucking material I had.
Thinking, where it's like, that's almost sometimes better, because I've had somebody come up to me who's like, hey, my brother struggles with, like, addiction, and you really helped me.
So that night, I do my set, it gets a few laughs, I transition to some stuff about sex, which gets way more laughs.
Yeah.
And after the set, like, I mean, people clap, it's not like I bombed or anything, but someone came up to me afterwards and was like, that was so helpful, like, and it was so good to hear and all this stuff. But the quiet of the crowd, it made me take a real hard right turn from that. And because...
There's certain quiets you feel.
Yeah.
There's a quiet where it's like, oh, we're just not into it. And then there's a quiet where it's like, oh, we're actually judging you.
Or it's not... I'm
not saying that we're judging you, but I'm saying that's how I feel.
Right.
Sometimes when we're like, we don't like you. And
there is the we don't like you. That's what I felt when I cried at Comedy Bar. And then there's the we're not digging it. And then...
Sometimes I hate that place.
It can be a lot.
Yeah.
But then there's the quiet of we're really thinking about what you're saying and we're feeling sad. And that is not my job. Yeah. I am not a TED Talk. I am not.
Right.
And so and even if my jokes are funny, and I think my jokes about suicide and my brother are funny, if an audience isn't ready for it, then it is my job to get them ready or to not do the material. And if I'm not getting the audience into that, like, headspace, that space of mind where they can laugh at a joke about my brother's death or laugh about my own thoughts about suicide, then that's 100% my responsibility. And if I don't get them there, then I can't do that joke.
That's interesting, because I do the joke here at Laugh Factory a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like people aren't expecting that, because I do a whole set about being a Jew and getting a breast reduction and having a stepmom. And,
you also do it towards, like, middle end, right?
I do my suicide joke, the one about, like, me competing with a woman, the very end.
Yeah.
And I do it because I think... it's one of my best jokes, I think, and it usually gets the most laughs. And it's almost like even though my set isn't about that, it's like, oh, she's dark, and it's like everything kind of just like leads up to that. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna close on that because this is my darkest joke. I'm not gonna go up and be like, hey, so I tried to kill myself. It's just like a little awkward, you know.
Of
so
course.
I ease into it. So it's like, but my thing is sometimes I ask, like, can I tell a personal story? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, if they don't laugh, I'm like, well, this you knew. this is like, and I don't care. That's my thing now is like, I have to separate myself from, if they're not ready for it, that's their problem in a sense. And like, of course you have to read the crowd. I'm not going to do it at an open mic with 3 people, but if it's a room full of people that have laughed at every other joke, it's like, okay, they like the dark stuff. Yeah. Sometimes I won't do it if they don't laugh at like a Jew joke that's like, I'll joke about killing Jesus. I'm like, you're not going to like when I try to kill myself. Right. You know, it's like, this is way worse.
When I talk about fucking a baby and then I talk about getting roofied, like, if you don't laugh at fuck a baby, you're not going to laugh at roofie.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So it is about feeling the room for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It's okay to joke about suicide, but you have to run all of your jokes by me.
And one last thing I was going to say is like, I don't think people understand the like levity of it too, where it's like a lot of people are like, oh, you can't joke about suicide, but sometimes people's jokes aren't funny. It's like, oh, well, you should just kill yourself. And it's like, that's not a joke.
Oh, that's not,
That's just, and then that's not a joke. I'm talking like jokes, and it's like people are
the same thing with like rape jokes, where it's like, oh, I'd rape her. It's like that's not funny, but like making a clever joke, especially from the perspective of a woman about rape. Right.
That's what I'm saying. Where it's like, I'll rape, and it's like, wait, but it's not even that's not funny because it's a rape joke. It's not funny just in general.
You didn't write a fucking joke.
Right. There's no punchline. Okay, that's what I was. Okay.
Yeah. So the same with suicide.
Yes. Out of time, but we're out of time on doing time. Where can people find you?
You can find me. Oh, I was like, where can you find me? My address is. No, you can find me at Jackie Koopa. Okay, my name's Jackie Cooper. All of my social media is Jackie Koopa. Yeah. So instead of ER, it's AH at the end. So Jackie Koopa.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then
that's like Instagram and Twitter.
That's
Insta, Twitter. You can find me.
Yeah.
I don't have a SoundCloud. And you
post about your shows on like...
Oh, yeah. I post about my shows. I can't plug a SoundCloud. I post about my shows on both of those mediums and on Facebook. I mean, if you really... Yeah. If you see this and you desperately want to friend me on Facebook, do it. I'll probably accept you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Please
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, rate, review. Doing Time. Thanks for watching Doing Time, everybody.
Thanks.